let's get started with this right away because we have a boatload of photos to go through. And not bad, huh? Why, you ask? You'll know soon enough. So today we are comparing the S20 Plus versus the S10 from last year, and we will see if S20 is really better than the S10, in what ways, and if it might actually be worse. Let's find out. For the first photo, one of the first things you'll see is that massive depth of field because of the massive sensor on the S20 Plus. And I also like how the extra contrast makes a subject pop in the S20 while the S10 image actually looks kind of washed out to me. But then for this next one here, I think I definitely prefer the S10 because of the extra shadow detail, and here's where the extra contrast on the S20 is not in its favor. This one actually looks a lot more realistic in the S20. Yeah, that's actually how vibrant these leaves are in real life. And also, that depth of field really just blows the S10 away. This ultra-wide shot here is more or less the same, maybe a tad bit more contrast on the S20, but other than that, it's like negligible difference between the two. And this is a standard focal length shot, and here the S10 is doing a much better job in terms of dynamic range and color. It's a definitive win for the S10 here. Then for the zoom, we have 2 times for S10 and 3 times on the S20 for default. And other than a little bit of more contrast on the S20, both of them are really similar, and I want to say really good images as well. Then for 10 times zoom, yep, you're getting real close now. It's a clear win for the S20 because the image is cleaner with more detail and it's a way more usable picture. Then we have that 30x zoom on the S20, and well, it's there, but I strongly recommend not to use it because it's basically a bad oil painting here. For this one, I definitely prefer the S10 because its HDR is doing an overall better job, and other than the extra depth of field on the S20, the S10 image here has my preference. Over here, the image of the S20 is a 64 megapixel and its HDR performance it tanks to hell. The foreground is just way too dark, but the standard 12 megapixel shot from the S20 is actually not too bad. It's not too washed out like the S10, and in my opinion, I think it's a better shot for the two. Of course, you guys are also the judge here. Another issue I found with the 64 megapixel mode is that you cannot get too close to your subject and maintain proper focusing. But that's actually not the issue with the 12 megapixel sensor. In this crash shot, the S20 is just way better in terms of color accuracy. The S10 completely washes out what was definitely not the case in reality. In this ultra-wide shot, except for the fact that the sun is ever so slightly overexposed on the S20, the image looks almost identical. But then for the standard 1x zoom, the HDR again is absolutely hopeless on the S20. It's just bad. I mean, the image is not as pleasing and the shadows are completely crushed to hell. It's not looking too good for the S20, people. For this one though, the textures of the brickwork looks so much better on the S20, and that depth of field is just fantastic. And well, since I was outside, I took a few ridiculous selfies, and well, the colors and detail here are so much better on the S20 with no weird red tint on my face, while on the other hand, the HDR performance is much better on the S10. I also tried to take a live focus shot and the S20 just failed miserably, while the S10 actually managed to produce a decent image. I mean, that's really not bad, huh? For this indoor shot of this IKEA light, I'm gonna go for the S20 shot because it's way cleaner and there's just too much noise in the S10's image. Now you might not be able to see the noise because of the YouTube compression and all that, but trust me, it's all there. Now for this, whatever this glass thing is, there's higher contrast on the S20, and in my opinion, it makes the shadows on the wall and the pattern on the table look way better. And there's much more detail on the S20 as well. And now for one of my paintings, the Dreamwalker, the S20 is much more realistic with much better textures and detail, and most importantly, I really liked how the black areas look actually black. on the S20, while the S10 kind of makes it look grayish. But one place where they did not nail the color is the blending area between the blue and the pink. The real image actually looks much better. Moving on to the last indoor shot, this one is backlit, and the S10 once again pulls ahead with better HDR performance. I mean, this thing is just driving up the controversy over and over. Okay, then moving on to portrait shots with live focus here. Well, the S10 shot looks really dark with boatload of noise here, and there's this weird green tint for some reason on my face and skin that just makes it look bonkers. Same story for the next one as well, and if you're asking why this psycho dude's wearing goggles indoors, well, I'm trying to test out the edge detection. I'm basically doing it for science, people. For this one, although I like the S10 shot as it's not as washed out, I'm gonna pick the S20 because it's got way less noise, especially on my shirt. Now, I would like to introduce you guys to my boy. His name is Valentine. Yup, he's super classy, and for the images, well, they look very similar with, I want to say, marginally more detail on the S20, and I also want to point out that the colors on both are absolutely washed out. Neither of them actually nailed the green color on the feathers. I don't know why, honestly. Now, this is a night mode selfie in medium to low lighting, and although the skin tones look better on the S20, there's just way too much contrast. And well, let me know if you guys actually prefer the higher contrast that we get for the S20 in the comments. And on this live focus psychopath selfie with goggles, I like the ring of that. But anyways, the edge detection is definitely better on the S20 along with much better colors. And well, it's a better image on the S20. Definitely win for that. And now for this backlit live focus shot, well, the S20 HDR is actually better than the S10. So it is a software issue. Well, it seems the S20 can actually be much better in terms of camera performance, but it's being bottlenecked by the software. Okay, moving on to night mode. For this painting, which I call Human Imperfections, the S20 image is so much better with proper blacks, controlled highlights, and way better detail preservation. Now for this empty coffee cup, the S20 image is very realistic and I do like the high contrast, but I think I would have preferred a little bit more brightness because this shot took like 20 seconds in night mode and for some reason it did not brighten up the exposure at all. But then what's even more interesting is this 5-second shot that I took handheld on the S20 actually produces a much more balanced image overall. And now we're back with this thingamajig, and this time with lights out. Well, same story here, high contrast on the S20, but I'm still gonna pick that one because there's a ton more detail in the S20 image, especially in the rope braids. Okay, now let's try an extreme night mode. I mean, you can look at that image and just see how absolutely dark it is. That's how it looked to me when I was shooting the photo. And handled, I think the night shot is similar on both, but the colors are much better maintained on the S20. But then if I stick them on a tripod, we get this 30-second exposure on both the S10 and S20, and well, the S20 looks really good. The noise levels are way down, the overall details are so much better, and the S10 would have looked good, but for some reason I could not get it to focus for the life of me. I think I took like 5-6 shots, but none of them focused. This is basically the best I could get. Moving on to some less crazy conditions. These are low light, but not to such a huge extent. Both these images are good, but the S20 is way better in terms of noise reduction and detail preservation. Same story for the 30-second exposure on the tripod, but once again, the S20 pulls ahead. Now for this ultra-wide night shot, neither of them nailed the focus properly, but the image on the S20 is far better overall. Now, here's the thing, for this image of Valley, I do like how extra contrast makes him stand out more in the S20, but then something really weird happened. For some reason, there's a shadow-like artifact on the white surface which wasn't actually there. Same thing here again. Valentine looks awesome in both photos, but once again there's that weird shadow that's not actually there, as you can see on the S10's image. Okay, so that's basically it. And wait, I wasn't actually wearing this one while I was checking out the photos, so don't worry about that. But yeah, it was a lot, admittedly a lot, and I'm really surprised how the S10 managed to pull forward in a few of these photos and not just keep up with the S20. It really surprises me and also saddens me a bit because the S20 can be so much better. I don't know what the hell is wrong with the software, because right now it's a hot steaming pile of mess, and for $1,200 you do not want a camera software that is a hot pile of mess. Do I think that it's better overall? Yeah, in most cases, some cases, not most, but the HDR performance needs to improve. There have to be some major software updates that improve the overall HDR performance on the S20. Otherwise, well, this is not the camera I paid for. But anyways, that's been it, and do subscribe because there is going to be a video comparison between the S10 and S20 coming very soon. I didn't put it here because it was going to make the video way too large, but yeah, do drop a like if you enjoyed, and stay home, stay safe. I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.